Smile, that's my actual dog tag from when I was in Baghdad. All Iraq pictures. I'm somewhere in the first row in Iraq. Yeah, a lot has changed.
She never imagined it would be to this extent.
Yeah, this kills me. It gets caught on everything.
50-year-old Michelle Johnson is tethered to an oxygen tube that winds through her home.
It just seemed like I just had a bad cough for a long time.
And she knew it shouldn't be ignored. Michelle is a registered nurse seen here in 2008 as she's recognized for stellar nursing skills.
And when I see how healthy I looked, it makes you think the things we take for granted.
Even then, her body was speaking.
I had problems in 2004 and 2005, and they kept saying it was bronchitis, and I just kept coughing all the time. And 2005, I started having this shortness of breath. So by 2007, the pulmonary doctors decided, let's do a biopsy.
The diagnosis?
They called it idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis.
It ravages the lungs, replacing elasticity with thick, stiff tissue that acts like a roadblock for oxygen trying to reach the bloodstream.
And once the inflammatory process is over, it leaves scar tissue to the lung. So basically, my lung is one big, hard scab.
How do you reconcile that? There is no cure.
Well, it's still something that I am wrestling with.
For the once ICU nurse, challenges are nothing new. In 1988, she joined the Air National Guard. And during the Gulf War, she was in an Air Force uniform.
My last deployment, unfortunately, Iraq was not my favorite. Because there was bombings. You'd have to go in your tent and put on a helmet and a flak vest and pray. You just died in your sleep.
Now she's at war with her body.
This is the third hospital, because originally I went through the VA.
But says it wasn't a good match for her complications, so she tried a local hospital that has transplant successes.
And again, worked me up test after test. And yes, I was a candidate. Yes, we need to get you on the transplant list. But because you have other issues, we can't accommodate you here. And my heart has now become a problem because of the lungs. So I'm in heart failure now.
She was urged to take her pursuit of new lungs and a new heart west to a renowned Texas transplant center, Houston Methodist.
This is a typical x-ray of somebody with pulmonary fibrosis. So it
Dr.
shows
Scott Shannon is surgical director of the lung transplant program at Houston Methodist.
the different white patches that we see throughout the lung, or the scarring of the lung tissue itself.
A disease mired in mystery.
Idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis is a scarring, a progressive scarring of the lungs from a cause that we don't necessarily understand or know.
Still,
A lung transplant is a good option for it.
I got a call and said, we have accepted you and all your problems and all your other risks.
that response, she says, came in November.
The most difficult part typically involves removing the old organs.
While accepted into Houston Methodist transplantation program, Michelle isn't officially on the list for new organs. Another hurdle must be crossed. On the day New Orleans will celebrate Mardi Gras, she'll be in Houston for a heart biopsy.
When I originally went, I went with my head held low, thinking this was it. You know, nobody can help me. I'm just going to have to live out my life until this thing knocks me out.
At Jackson Barracks, military colleagues, family, and friends held a fundraiser recently. Eventually, Michelle must relocate to Houston along with a caretaker to be in position for the transplant surgery she seeks. She has insurance, but has been told to expect exorbitant out-of-pocket expenses.
I worked with her for about 18 years, and Michelle was always a good person, always there for others, and we just wanted to return a favor to her.
She's gotten a bit weaker and lost
tremendous amount of weight compared to the pictures where she was in the military.
Single and fiercely independent, being on the receiving end is difficult.
Bought everything. I don't need you to buy me a gift. I can buy my own gifts. You know, I was always that person. I can buy my own house. Now, even to clean my house, I have to ask for help. And it's hard.
With oxygen in tow, she still reports to her job at the VA. While no longer able to work in a hospital setting, her work as a case manager for cancer patients is just as vital.
Every day that I open my eyes and I get up, I say, Lord, it's you and me today. Help me do it. And I say, and we always make a deal. You get me to the car, I'll get to work.
In 2012, the master sergeant had to heed her body's command, hanging up her fatigues for good.
Carrying a gun, just carrying any type of weapon and things like that, carrying equipment for chemical warfare. It just got to be too difficult.
Still, with tenacity, she seeks answers.
They're back and forth. One doctor said it's a possibility that you may have been exposed to something when you were on your deployments in the Middle East, pollutants, sand, jet fuel. There were burn pits there in Baghdad that we were constantly around, but they're not definitive on it. More so, I think, because they don't have enough literature.
Environmental exposures, and that certainly is another cause of pulmonary fibrosis. People that have had exposures to chemicals or other toxins, that can cause scarring of the lung as well. But again, this entity, idiopathic, is just like you said, we don't know what triggers it or what brings it on.
When I feel despair or depression coming along, then I surround myself by people who are strong in faith.
To couple with her confidence that healthy organs are in her future.
You know, it's not pie in the sky. It ain't gonna work, you know. You're gonna die before they even get you. I don't believe that. I can't believe it.
Because doing so would be contrary to standing strong.
This kills me. It gets caught on everything.
When last we saw Michelle Johnson, a life-threatening disease had a tight grip.
And once the inflammatory process is over, it leaves scar tissue to the lung. So basically, my lung is one big hard scab.
That was in February, and Johnson wasn't about to cower in the face of a new challenge.
That's my actual dog tag from when I was in Baghdad.
She'd confronted fear on foreign soil, serving her country as part of the Air National Guard.
There was bombings. You know, you'd have to go in your tent and put on a helmet and a flak vest and pray. You just died in your sleep.
She says she returned home with a bad cough. Soon her body was at war with a mysterious disease that attacks vital organs.
Idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis is a scarring, a progressive scarring of the lungs from a cause that we don't necessarily understand or know.
The registered nurse who'd earned praise for her care of the critically ill found herself needing not only a double lung transplant, but also someone else's heart. Then on April 3rd, Johnson, who'd temporarily relocated to Texas for treatment, got the call she'd prayed for from Houston Methodist Hospital, renowned for difficult transplant cases.
My sister was like running all over the place, like, what to do? I said, get the keys. So I was excited. I was anxious, nervous.
Life-sustaining organs available sooner than she'd expected.
And then Good Friday, it was a Good Friday that I had the surgery.
Here's Johnson only days after Easter. She'd survived the risky, almost 10-hour operation.
When I finally came to, I kept saying, when is this surgery gonna happen? When is the surgery? And my sister whispered in my ear, feel around. Although my hands were tied, I could feel tubes. She said, you've had the surgery, you're up now. I was feeling a lot better than I was.
Housed inside her petite frame, a second chance at life.
I have incisions on either side here, and I have one big one here, where they went in and they lifted the rib cage up, and they were able to tuck the heart, do the heart and the lungs by tucking. So they didn't really break anything. They didn't have to crack ribs. They didn't have to go in with a saw.
Only weeks ago, Johnson returned to work at the local VA as a case manager for cancer patients. Still, her immune system has to catch up.
So I do have to be careful when I'm around crowds of people, and I do wear my mask.
20 pills await her on a good day.
Air anti-rejection, mycophenolate. Take it twice a day. Still having complications with eating, and I do have a tube in my stomach where I still get tube feeding.
A potent drug regimen that's thinned her once full head of hair. But for Johnson, it's a small price, given the precious gifts she received.
I got my organs from the same donor. I know nothing about the person, whether they were male or female. The only thing they told me about the individual was that they were younger than me. So I'm hoping I got some 30-year-old organs, you know, for this 51-year-old chick.
She's not allowed to meet the donor's family for a year out of respect for their grief. Still, gratitude already wells up in her words.
I would love the family to know the contribution, the decision to donate organs was such a tremendous thing, and it really gave me a new start. It really did, and my whole family is forever grateful for that.
So what would you say to someone who's facing serious medical challenges at this time?
Keep hope. You have to keep hoping. You cannot give up.
She calls her mother a rock of support.
She thinks that what she does is small, but it's monumental.
A pre-surgery fundraiser at Jackson Barracks by military friends and the generosity of complete strangers who learned of her plight lessened her post-op financial burden.
In the hundreds of thousands. So with this, my insurance was able to get the bulk of it, but the fundraising helped so that I wouldn't go in debt and have to possibly lose your house, you know.
While Johnson links her time in the war zone to her condition, the VA continues to investigate.
I'm still fighting that battle with the VA, still hoping to get some service connection, because this is an ongoing thing, even though I have the organs.
But that doesn't dominate her thoughts. It's a holiday season without oxygen tanks.
It was just something I had to do for renewal, you know, just a renewed spirit, renewed strength.
As her new heart and lungs allow her to once again make plans for the future. I'm Sabrina Wilson, Fox 8 News.